that the match. Like those are the winds from behind your back.
There would be in that room back there, if there is any. No, I'm not.
That was
It wasn't.
I remember I mentioned the
Those are all full. They have white light sheets.
Excuse me, everyone. We'll start the meeting at 7:05. That way we give a chance for people to sign in and get settled in. So, just so this way. Thank you.
How much change that
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, thank you. So, before we go to call the public, I'll just make a short announcement on how the meeting is ran, just for folks that maybe haven't attended a planning commission meeting before. So in the public comments section of the meeting, we invite public comment and try to keep it to 3 minutes or less. And as you can see, there's a large crowd here tonight, which is great. And the public comments should be addressed to the planning commission. Just keep that in mind when you're making public comments, so that way we can get through them in an orderly fashion. So with that being said, we'll go into the agenda here. And,
Can you, I'm sorry, Rich, but can you explain the ordinance, the moratorium, and what, you know, how that process works? Because sometimes people think that you're voting on it tonight. They don't necessarily understand.
Yeah, I can, and that's part of the old business item number 2, which we've been working on for the last few months here. And where we're at in the process is the planning commission is working on amending our current ordinance based on feedback from the county, which we asked for. And at this time, once we finalize what we think is our amendments to the ordinance, then we will have to schedule a public hearing once we have a finalized amended ordinance, which will be in a future meeting. And then from there, then it would go to the township board for approval or denial. So that's where we're at in the process. And it's important to note that we do have an existing ordinance for this type of use that has been in place for quite some time. So that's a very important factor in where we're at and how we're approaching this going forward, so.
But we have a moratorium.
Yes, correct, yep. The township board has enacted a moratorium, yep. So at this moment, at this moment, there's a freeze on applications for this type of use until we, and with that being said, as Mateo's mentioned in other meetings, that we have to continually show progress that we are working on it. We just can't have a moratorium without progress by the planning commission. So with that being said, right now we go to call to the public. If you could, if you'd come forward, please state your name and address for the planning commission. So at this time, if anyone has public comment, feel free to come up. Oh, there's someone.
My name is Ann, I'm at 11506 Belfour, and I just wanted to mention that the current layouts that have been submitted look like they're abutting to residential areas. One of those areas is adjacent to my backyard. I don't want anything like this to be near people. It can cause harm to people. and can reduce property values, and I would really rather that those approved areas would be reduced to what's comparable with other townships, and that they would be away from residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Have a handout here. And anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna get them.
We can share them.
Okay. Oh, wait a minute, here. That one was there? Okay. All right,
Please state your name, please, and address.
yes, my name is Stan Orzell. It's right on the top of the sheet here. Yep. 11413 Nora Drive. A little background and history on solar farms. Since 2011, 700 of these have went out of business and claimed bankruptcy. Solar farms, when they make a proposal to you or to us, the citizens here in this township, it only gets roughly from what they propose, about 1/10 comes out. In other words, 1/10 electricity is produced. The life cycle of one of these solar farms is 30 to 40 years. Bankruptcies arise due to poor maintenance, weather, material shortages, and unqualified workers. The one note that's very important to the citizens that live adjacent, that could live adjacent to these, is their wires are buried 3 feet down. And I'll address this shortly. They produce high level of noises, constant, 24/7, 25 to 60 decibels. Are you familiar with how loud that would be? Okay. Risk alert. They alter the drainage. Canals and soil compaction. In other words, underneath the lens of this, or underneath these glass panels, it packs down. It's very, okay. And then around that, they increase erosion and runoff. Now, the other thing to take in consideration of this is, if you've ever driven out west, you see a lot of these in the desert. There's no risk of fire. Here, we're going to run a risk of fire. Panels are subject to fracturing, and I'm sure anybody involved in Michigan roads, you're familiar with fracturing. In other words, anywhere we put down a nice patch of road, all you have to do is get some freezing, a heavy truck drives over it, it'll put in a microfracture. Soon after that, water gets into it, and then we have our beautiful Michigan roads. Okay. Now, another thing I found very disturbing in this is there are 3 heavy metals that become part of the leakage from these when the panels are fractured. Number 1 is lead. And I'm sure everyone's familiar with the water supply up in Flint and what has caused the cause and effects of water up in that area. Well, they can release up to 90 parts per million. And this affects young children, it's toxic to them, and pregnant women. Prolonged exposure to, the next one is silver. And all you have to do is be prolonged to it or come in contact with it in your drinking water for 125 days. you start to become gray. You you can have an enlarged heart, lung issues. Next one is cadmium. Now you say, cadmium, okay. When you eat, let's say, tomatoes from the ground, well, you're going to be involved with cadmium. You intake it, it's in the earth. However, the cadmium from this, it's around 400 times the net of acceptable level. Now, for some of you, I don't know how many of you smoke. Anybody smoke? Okay.
We're over your 3 minutes, so if you could, try to wrap up
Okay.
in the next meeting.
When you smoke, the smoke that has cadmium in it, and that's the reason you wind up with kidney disease, decomposition of your bones, and various pulmonary diseases. The solid waste that's produced from these is 300 times more than what would come from a nuclear plant. Now, I talked before about wires in the earth. Anybody that living close to it has become accustomed to stray voltage. In other words, that will affect your household. Every time you go to touch something, or your television, all of a sudden, doesn't work good, you have, the picture doesn't come in right, that's because of that. It will kill wildlife. Related losses. Okay. Finally, in conclusion, there's an obvious health risk to citizens. Citizens, and a lady just said she lives right near it, proposal. The proposed distance from living away from this is 1.5 miles. Now here in Tyrone Township, I defy anybody to walk. You can walk 500 yards in any distance. You're going to walk into a ditch with water. You're going to walk into a small stream. You're going to walk into a pond or a lake. Any one of these heavy metals is going to go down. And it affects wildlife, the risk of farming. We have a farm down the road a ways, and livestock. Now, one of the proposals I would give, if they go ahead, I don't want to say go ahead, but is to have the EPA come in every 6 months, which they will do, and take an evaluation of water and dirt and soil.
Okay, thanks. I think that's enough. I can't let everybody go.
Final comment, please.
Okay, yep.
Final comment.
Yep.
I used to work for a chemical company. Their pockets are real long, but their arms are real short. Okay.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Now,
No, yeah, we got to be respectful of the audience and others who want to comment.
money, if you choose to go ahead, will not be placed, should not be placed in insurance. Should be placed at least $800 million into a contingency fund for cancer, pregnancy, wildlife losses.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else? All right.
How you doing? My name's Dean Haas, Walnut Shores, Fenton. 20-some years in the industry of electric. I've done wind farms, I've done solar, and I can tell you it's the next big scam on America. As the wind farms were done, the maintenance, the upkeep, they've never recouped $1 of the money that was saved, supposed to be saved. The worst part about this is, at least with those, it was fiberglass and steel. Now we're talking about chemicals that have to be mined. Again, where's the savings? What's the benefit? They're constantly under maintenance because of breakage, hailstorms, birds, animals, you name it. They break, they've got to be replaced. It's a continuous cycle of upgrade and upkeep. they're not worth it. We don't want them here. There's places they can put them if they want. Put them along the freeway where the noise doesn't matter. But do not put them in our township.
Good evening, Rich. Thanks for explaining all those things. I'm Jeanette, resident of Tyrone Township. I also have a Facebook group called Tyrone Township Watch that is discussing the solar issue. And over the past few months, I have voiced my concern about the revision of the solar ordinance. Time and again, I've mentioned that there are townships around us that are taking a different approach. And the Planning Commission has even asked the consultant Carlisle Wortman to provide information. They have not. So I decided to reach out to these townships myself, and some of them to me, and I've talked to elected officials, appointed officials, and residents. And in my hands, this binder is only half of what I've printed out of ordinances that are tight, and they had a long moratorium, and nobody's getting sued. Okay? So that is a lie, that we're gonna get sued. So I decided to reach out to them, I talked with them, and they crafted very tight ordinances. They did this. How do they do it? By listening to their residents and then seeking expert advice with an attorney who is capable and experienced in defending these ordinances. In some cases, the residents have successfully removed their consultants from the process so that an approach that's more in line with the residents' wishes could be accomplished. In contrast, what we've seen here in our township is this. Requests have been made to Carlisle Wortman to provide this information from other townships, and they never do. And now I know why. It's because those successful ordinances don't align with Carlisle Wortman's agenda. We've seen them ignore your request to present information regarding lawsuits, and now I know why about that too, because there are no successful lawsuits. When I read the agenda packet for tonight, I could hardly believe my eyes. An outsider is telling you, the Planning Commission, to make a choice for designated solar land based on two choices that they came up with. And if that wasn't enough, they told you which one they want you to pick. Just so everyone in the room knows, the one that they want you to pick involves 12 parcels of land equaling 1,035 acres. And that's hard for some people to depict. What is 1,035 acres? It's a total of 782 football fields. Up and down US 23 that backs up to residential areas. So, you know, you can tell your friends and family when they come to visit, hey, we're the section of 23 with all the ugly industrial solar panels that are damaging our environment, including our water, soil, and air, that are causing health risks to both humans and animals and diminishing our quality of life. So there is a solution for this, okay? Number one, stop listening to the scare tactics about lawsuits and the push from people to do things that don't align with our master plan, and instead do what the people want and what is environmentally and safe for us, our health. Also, number two, start listening to the residents. 3, stop reinventing the wheel. I said, I've got all these ordinances in here. These are tight and they're good and they've been approved. So we need to look at that. Also, consult an expert attorney on this subject, someone who has a proven track record with our neighboring townships. There's several out there. And then I would request, Rich, that you hold a town hall meeting where residents can ask questions and get answers. And instead of what we saw at last week's board meeting when questions were not answered. So thank you for listening. I appreciate all of you being here. And I'm so thankful for the residents that showed up tonight. I hope that you will think about looking at these. Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Go ahead.
Ed Murray, 12271 Germany Road, and I have a question for you. Are you familiar with the power loss on a partly cloudy day with a solar panel? Do you know what it is? Partly cloudy? Give me a guess. I'm waiting.
Go ahead, I'm sure.
Okay, partly
Go ahead.
cloudy is generally on average 10 to 15%. But when you have a completely overcast day, like we're going to be getting for the next 5 to 8 days in a row here in Michigan, it's 70 to 90% loss. So get that, 70 to 90% loss. On a cloudy day, we're going to have all these cloudy days in a row. I've been here in Michigan my entire life, and I can't remember how many times I've counted in the wintertime, 30 days in a row without seeing the sun. You know, so the output that you're gonna get for the amount of money and land used, it's not gonna be very good. And the other thing is, I don't, if you're thinking of the future, is everybody gonna have just electric stoves, furnaces, hot water heaters? Is that the overall plan? If it is, they're not gonna have enough land here to produce enough electricity to power all these, and nobody ever says anything. Well, how much is it gonna cost to replace your gas furnace, your hot water heater, your stove? If you can't do it yourself, you're looking at probably 12 to 20 grand, depending on the amount of square footage in your house, how many appliances are running on gas. Nobody ever brings that up. A lot of people can't afford the extra 12 to 20 grand out of their pocket to replace all these appliances. That's what's gonna happen. And thank heavens, I got a full house generator. Every time that electricity goes off, I still have a water pump and I have a gas furnace to heat my house. Thank heavens. So keep in mind the power loss. That just didn't come off the top of my head. That's research on the computer about this loss of power when we have these cloudy days. So keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed. Gentleman over here, thanks.
Quick comment.
Yep.
My name's Tony Aller. I live 12195 Winchell Way. Been a resident for over 50 years. I keep on hearing the term solar farm. This process is not farming. They're not growing anything out of the ground. This is a manufacturing process. They're manufacturing energy.
Yeah.
So why on earth would we want to rezone the land on our farm fields, on dirt roads, next to residential subdivisions, and put industrial manufacturing in these places? I mean, if that's the case, I'd like to build a new factory up here someplace on Foley Road, you know, where you guys are designating the solar locations. Be a cheap piece of property out in the country. Why couldn't I do that? I mean, it's a manufacturing process. I think that the designation of the plan that you guys have chosen, or your consultants have chosen, are not really, they don't fit in an industrial application location. I think the industrial zoning that we have in the township makes sense. But to put this solar manufacturing on agricultural land, to me, makes zero sense. Just food for thought.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Jim Sanchez. I live on Carmel Road here in Fenton. So I'm of the opinion that the context that we're talking about here is the master plan, right? And the master plan, I'm not an expert at it. I've read it once. I don't know it as well as you guys do. But the flavor I got from it is that the purpose is to kind of put the guardrails around what makes Fenton stay Fenton. And in that regard, industrial land use is a consideration, right? Well, the traditional kind of industrial land use that has happened in Fenton historically has been the kind of thing where it might be suppliers of major corporations, it might just be small mom and pop shops, but their very existence is additive, positive for the community in terms of employment and enhancing the greater overall value. These silly, and I'm being judgmental with that term, these silly solar farms Because of the capital-intensive nature, there's no way anybody can look me straight in the face and say that's a local endeavor that's existing for the purpose of adding value to this town. No, these are funded by external entities pushing an agenda. And it's not even really going to create employment for our community. The kind of skills that are required, the equipment machinery operators, the specialized electrical technicians that do the wiring and the engineering, they're a roving band of contractors that go from job site to job site. They don't live here. And when they're done, there's not going to be a single Fenton employee. I would bet a week's pay on this comment. There will never be a single Fenton resident that is getting a weekly paycheck and benefits because of the existence of that industrial operation on our land. So from my standpoint, we recently, through a collective effort of forces, rejected an industrial application that the town really wasn't aligned with, the asphalt plant. You know, and I guess the largest factor was it's like considered a dirty industry. Well, you know what? These solar farms are a dirty industry. They're not local. The mining in slave labor of children in foreign countries around the world necessary to produce these things, that makes it a dirty industry in my mind. And if we go down this road, we are complicit with that kind of immorality and an action that is not additive in a positive manner to the life in our community. Just my opinion.
Lady in the back.
It's my first time, so I wasn't quite sure how it all works out, but, mine is kind of short. Oh, my name is Karina Beardsley, and I'm 10067 Sonora Drive. Where we're at, we're Nymphy and Sonora, if you look at the map, it looks like you guys have us surrounded by these solar farms, which is pretty concerning to me. Am I wrong? Is that about
You're
right?
right.
Am I right?
It's in that area.
So Nymphy and Sonora, we are like front, back, sides, both sides. We are surrounded by these farms that you guys want to put up there. I might get a little emotional, I'll try not to, but I have a daughter with special needs. I have a daughter with Down syndrome who has a really hard time with high pitch noises or anything like that. So if these solar farms really do give off the noises that I've watched videos with, we have to move. We have to go. But in this kind of market, where are we supposed to go? So I know that it's all about business and making money and stuff, but you are affecting the people who live here by that. It's not just about money. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Broadworth, 11791 Park and Lane. I'm also a local realtor. So the way I think is, what would a solar farm or solar manufacturing do to the prices of our houses? First of all, you're going to have a lot of people, it appears, that are going to get up and move. If you get too many people moving, and that's the big concern right now, is if there's a big drop in the interest rates real fast, you're going to start seeing 2007, 2008, because everybody will start putting their house on the market, and it'll turn into a buyer's market. The value of homes are going to drop. The good thing about Tyrone Township is we pay 22 mills as opposed to over 30 mills in the county to the north of us. So they're paying 50% more in taxes. If our values of our homes, which the average home right now is at over $400,000, if that drops, are you going to have enough for your budget, or are the solar farms going to put in enough tax base to cover all that? What's it going to do to the value of the land? You're not going to get any new residential complexes around here that we could use, because everybody wants to move down into Tyrone Township because they're tired of paying the taxes elsewhere. And if you go into Fenton, I mean, our roads get rough because Livingston doesn't take care of well. Have you driven into Fenton lately? And they did that because they finally got the people after so many years to raise their millage rates.
And look at the roads. It's taken 2 years to fix each road. It's an incompetent council up there. I haven't dealt with the council here other than just knowing that I like what goes on in Tyrone Township. So I won't say anything that, as far as I know, you're all good people. But it's gonna drop the values of the homes because nobody's gonna wanna live around a solar farm. I haven't seen anybody here tonight that says they do wanna live around a solar farm. So, you represent the people, you gotta look at what the people want, and then make your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Back there, go ahead.
Dan Cipher, 10418 Lundy Lake Road. Is it okay? You can hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
I attended a number of the master planning meetings held this spring and that stuff. I just don't remember solar farms ever being discussed by anyone at those meetings and that. And somehow all that input that was put together kind of went one way or went in, I guess. And now, I'm not sure how all that got ended up with solar farms being part of the master plan. I don't think that was the intent of all the people that were there and at these meetings as we built this up. But, you know, I've been part of planning and stuff, and I know you gather stuff, and then it's what you do with the people's input. Said one thing, when you get advice that has something to gain that leads you a different direction, you got to be real careful of the advice you're taking and where you're going with it. We've got a lot of zoning things that are for things that have been good for Tyrone Township, that if we start changing them, I think we got some problems. I've been over on M13 above Lennon. There's a bunch of farms there, and you know, I think people need to see those and see what's going on and talk to the local people, where you see all the signs along the road saying, no solar farms, no solar farms. The people around them don't want them there, and they're very upset with them. But and worry about water quality. We all have wells and things that happen to the water. I also would like to hear a discussion. I hope decisions aren't made tonight so that we can get more information. The sewer system that was installed years ago that we're all paying through the nose for because it hasn't been used more. We designate these areas as solar farms. I don't believe they tap into the sewer system. I don't believe they'll contribute to the sewer system, and we'll continue to have to carry that load on us as residents because the land didn't get developed the way they wanted it to when they designed that and when they put the master plan together, the old one. So I hope we take a real good look at the master plan and what all the people that participated in putting that together. Again, I don't remember solar farms ever being mentioned in that planning stuff. And I'm surprised that all of a sudden we've got a plan that may include those because the people didn't want it. So I respectfully hope you don't make any decisions tonight and you continue to gather information and you hear what the people want.
Okay, thank you.
Jim Spore, 10274 Walnut Shores Drive. Kind of dovetailing what Dan just mentioned about the master plan. I too was part of that workshop planning process, and I don't remember solar farms being an issue. I do remember residents saying that they like the rural atmosphere of the township. And one of the things that I think is lost in the cracks is a parks and recreation effort by the master plan to develop more parks, exercise areas. I do a lot of walking and road biking. And for walking, you're walking on the roads here. We have to drive to Linden for a nice paved path or to Downer, Martin to go hiking in the woods. There's nothing in the township. So please keep that in mind when you're talking about the master plan. To, even if it's small, start with something, with some walking trails. I don't know how many acres the township has right here, but something to encourage exercise. The best exercise you can do is the one that you do regularly. And walking, biking are simple things to do. And maybe a park comes later But please keep that in mind when you're talking about the master plan. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
My name is Chris, I'm from Tyrone Township. I also want to mention that because this is talking about energy production or manufacturing, this is not a farm. You should stop using the word farm in anything that you're putting out because it misleads the public. Secondarily, you should also be including and looking at wind turbines in addition to that, another energy producing thing that's bound to come in because you're going to have the same people and the same discussions at the same time. So perhaps grouping those two together to try to make sure we have a comprehensive plan for both of them could be very important and shorten the life cycle to address everything at once. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Go ahead, sir.
My name is Joe Sparks. I live at 8073 Parkwood. I don't know, I'm new to the wind farm thing, or the solar thing, but I watched the video on Lennon. I hope everybody's watched that. The noise, they play the noise for you. It's quite I just watched it the other night, and my goodness. I wouldn't want my name associated with approving something like that. The long term of that is not good. Everybody should watch that video.
Thank you. Any other public comment? One in the back. Go ahead.
Sonia Heiser. I live at 11424 Whitaker Road. It's on the list, but anyway, relatively new resident to Tyrone Township, and I think it's important to articulate the fact how far this solar project has reached. I just learned about it today. It's very concerning to me. I've never been to a planning meeting before, and it alarmed me that much to actually show up and actually take the time to say something to you folks. There's a reason why people live in Tyrone Township, and the reason why new folks like me moved to Tyrone Township. It's the rural community. I think it's important to take the time to reflect on an outdoor lifestyle and the reason why we like the community the way that it is. And it's not farming, it's industry. It strips away everything that is rural about a community, and I would implore you to be cautious with the research that you do with this solar project.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Go ahead.
Daisy Borson, 9147 Fawcett Road. I just learned about this too. I'm not happy with it all. I ran some numbers, and there are, for 1 acre, there's about 2,000 solar panels that can fit on there. So you're looking at over 2 million solar panels for the area that they're talking about, which is 45 million square feet. And that's a lot. You know, that's most of everything, which is just gonna kill it all. So I'm not happy.
Thank you.
My name is Herman Ferguson. I live at 12197 Alcoy Drive. I am a board member. I sit right there. What I don't understand is, do we have to go through this? I was here when the asphalt plant, I just became new to that. I watched all the people in this township stress. I have a tree service, and I had many people calling me day and night wanting me to come and give them an estimate for a tree. They didn't want a tree estimate. They wanted to talk about this. I'm watching people here talking about the asphalt plant. You know, we laugh about it. Why do we have to go? When nobody wants it, why do we have to do it? Like with the asphalt plant.
Right.
There were people that were so upset, they lost sleep. They couldn't go to work. I wish as residents, we represent them.
Yes.
You put us here.
Right.
We live here too. And we care about this. Why do we have to stretch it out? Why can't we make quicker decisions? It's like Tony Allen, we have businesses. We gotta make decisions a lot faster. I know there's a process, but when you have everybody here, can I show, is there anybody that would want any type of a solar farm?
Hell no.
No.
I don't understand it, I don't get it. I've been on the board for 4.5 years, and I don't know, with the asphalt plant, with this here, they don't want it, they live here for that reason. I don't know why we gotta stretch this out for so long. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
We just had a board member break a lot of rules. Thank you, Herman. That's awesome.
Steve Bissell, Indian View Trail, right over here. I'm the backyard neighbor. Thank these folks. I haven't been to a meeting in a while because I've been out and about, but Herman, number one, thank you, because you just said more than usually anybody gets to say in the board meeting, so I appreciate your candor. The one thing I haven't heard in relative to the discussion about the solar panel projects is, do we know what the financial benefit is for particular communities from a tax basis? Is it $1 million a year of additional tax revenue? Is it $5 million? I'm just curious because I haven't heard about.
Actually, there's no benefit tax-wise.
There isn't.
No. This is an issue that the state of Michigan is supporting.
Yeah.
We'll cover more of it.
And that's why I'm curious about, because I haven't read that much about it, so I was trying to figure out if there's anything financial.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Any other public comment? Okay, not seeing any more. Thank you, appreciate it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm April Reese, I live at 8445 Hagan Road. You've heard all of this, we've heard all of this. I've lived out here 30 years, built my house, and I've dealt with stuff on Hagan Road. My question is, hearing all of this, you guys are intelligent, you've done your research, I would think. You're supposed to be smarter than me because you're sitting out there with doing research and making decisions for our community. What makes you all think this is a good idea? What's your input? Why do you think this should even be listened to or talked to? Just say no and be done with it. We gotta, excuse us, we gotta get a backbone here in America, in our townships, to say no to the bad crap. What's your guys' point? Why are we here? Why are we talking about this? Why do you think it's a good idea in live here? It's my question.
Thank you.
Did anyone up there have a comment that says, oh, this is a good idea?
So right now is public comment, and then when we're in the agenda, obviously it's open meeting, and all of our meetings previously have been, so we will discuss about it. Any other public comment? All right, we'll go on to old business, item number 1, which is the master plan. So I know there was a few comments about the master plan and solar, and are they combined? And they are not. The solar topic is a separate item, and it is a zoning ordinance amendment that we're going to try to strengthen our ordinance. So with the master plan, the stage we're at, Mateo, I think you could probably give a summary, but my understanding is we updated the truck route map to reflect accurately based upon our resolutions that are current.
People don't know who he is.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, Mateo, I don't know if you have a general, concise, like a summary of where we're at with the master plan, and
yes.
That'd be good. So,
Mateo Baslava, Carlisle Workman Associates. I'm the planning consultant for the township. So with the master plan, via the joint meeting, and then the comments that were passed on to the planning director after that meeting. We had some additional edits to make, nothing too substantial. The edits that came from that meeting was the change to the truck route map, which included Hogan all the way from the western border to 23. Another portion of it came in section 8, the community facilities. Just kind of updating some of the history of this site, the original township hall and this township building and property. And then in section 10, in goals and objectives, we removed the language discussing the potential for the waste management. And also added language about how the township will kind of review its truck route resolutions from time to time, kind of as needed. The Livingston County did confirm that, the townships do have the control to kind of designate the truck routes, kind of based on need or observation of what it might be. So we put some language in goals, objectives, and strategies about just kind of keeping up on that as time goes on. If you feel the need to change those routes. And that was really it that came out of that meeting.
Yeah, I see the fire department services was updated. The only other one I hadn't on our list. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So then with this, so the positions you could be in this, for this is to vote that these edits meet the comments that were made at the last meeting and the ones that I received.
You can't hear him at all.
I'm sorry. So the point that you're at now, you good? Yeah. Okay. The point that you're at now is that if these edits meet the needs, the comments that we received from the meeting and that were collected by the director of planning, that you guys could vote to send this draft to the township board for approval to distribute to the neighbors, which starts that 63-day review period. I would offer up that this is not the last time that this can be edited or modified. The draft that you approve to go to the neighbors needs to be substantially completed, but not 100% completed. So just as clarity, if you vote tonight that this is the draft that you want to send to the board, this is not the final draft.
Can you define neighbors? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
People here don't know.
No, that's fine. So by statute, the master plan draft has to be supplied to your neighbors on your north, south, east, and west, not diagonally. And they get to review it for 63 days. They can make comments. They can tell you they love it. They can tell you they hate it. You don't really have to take any of that into consideration, but by law, you do need to share it with them.
You mean townships?
So townships, yeah. However, there's other public utilities are included in it.
And cities.
Sorry?
And cities.
Yeah, and cities are included in it. And it is really, again, you do not have to take any comments, edits, whatever it might be.
Thanks, Mateo. Yep. So, the planning commission members, is there any other items that were not addressed that we needed to be addressed?
Can you leave the map up so we can see it? I went online trying to review it, and
Yeah, hold on, so right now, we're going through the first agenda item, which is the master plan, and
What's in it?
yeah.
Some are option 1 and 2 are in the master plan.
So, right now, at this time, we, at the end, once we're done with our agenda items, then we'll go back to call to the public if there's more public comment. So, for everyone's awareness in the audience, this is a map of what the existing truck routes are. So, in the master plan, we kind of give a snapshot of this is what we have currently, and then there's goals and objectives for what we'd like to see in the future and the future land use map. And if, for people who haven't been involved with this over the past year, we've been working on it, and there is a website that's on the township's website that has all these documents, and you can download them there, view them at leisure, so they're all in there.
And the comment was that the previous version of the map was just missing Hogan Road, which there's a regulatory ordinance that designates Hogan Road as a truck route. We were just matching the map that we have in our master plan to what's already approved as a regulatory, as a truck route.
Is there any other?
It matches it, I agree, I checked it, it looks good
from the planning commission? I don't know.
I think they,
What's that?
the other two comments were kind of, we got from the board during the joint meeting.
And they were updated.
They were updated.
Yeah.
If there's no other comments, I would entertain a motion on this. To move along?
I think we've been working on the master plan we haven't had any comments besides these ones in a long time.
So where we're at, we're for the planning commission, we have to recommend that this draft be used for distribution to the surrounding community. And the board will approve that to be distributed. So.
But you said we can still edit it though.
Yeah, there's a period. It has to be set out.
We gotta get this going to keep the process moving.
Keep it going, yeah.
Yep.
I move to approve.
Yeah.
To the board.
We're still gonna have a public hearing on it afterwards.
Right. And this will go to the board as the current edits are. If the board wishes to re-edit some of the other things in there, they can send it back to Mateo for re-editing. One of the things that was included in it also was the potential to develop a parks and recreation plan too. So that does exist in the...
Yes. Kurt, thanks for bringing that up. It is on there at page 10.8 on objective 2. Explore development of a parks and recreation plan, and there's other objectives that we built those objectives based on those meetings that you said you attended. So if you have comments, then send them on, but there'll be a public hearing on the next,
so
before it's adopted.
Yeah.
So there's a motion to recommend that this draft be sent to the board for approval for distribution. Is there a second?
Support.
Okay, did you catch that? Steve motion and Kurt supported. So, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No opposed? Okay. 5 in favor and 1 opposed. 2 opposed, sorry. Yep.
5 in favor?
4.
So you want to do roll call?
Yeah, do roll call, Marion. That'll be easier.
Bill Wood?
Bill, free vote to make it easier.
So, are you voting yes?
For the master plan draft. She's doing roll call. That way we have it cleared. I'm with it. Okay. Okay, so, yes.
Steve Kraus?
Yes.
Kurt Schultz?
Yes.
Kevin Ross?
No.
John Worth?
Yes.
Richard Erickson?
Yes. Okay, so then the next item, or Mateo, is there any other items needed from the planning commission at this time? For the master plan? No. Okay, thank you. So the next agenda item is utility scale solar facilities. And I think you guys prepared like a summary detail and then where we're at currently for the planning commission members is we had went through in the last 5 or so meetings, we've gone through the text of the ordinance, and then we're working on the overlay district. So I don't know if we want to go through this chart. Maybe Mateo would be good for the planning commission to...
Yeah, sure. So, per the past conversations about the overlay, the geography, and so on, after the last meeting, it was discussed that we were looking at the US 23 corridor, but that the planning commission wanted to see, based on the option 1 that shows kind of the full length of the corridor, an option that kind of restricts that even further. So we put that option together, and then we also kind of addressed the information that the planning commission wanted to see as it related to, for either option, what are we looking at from a council or a parcel count perspective? What are we looking at from an acreage perspective? What are we looking as a percentage of the land in the township perspective? So that's what the table kind of outlines to show you option 1, option 2. We also added in there kind of the way that the rest of the township is zoned. from the perspective of, you're relatively 92% residential, you're 8% other, as it would relate to like commercial, industrial, the other zoning designations that you may have that are non-residential. And with that, kind of have these two options now laid out for consideration on either action or further modification.
I've got a question with you.
Sure.
So, looking at both of them, I see one that basically sits on top of the other and just adds more to the other. Why wouldn't we just want to go with the less one to begin with, or something even less than that? Like, what's the advantage of option one to begin with?
So how we got to US 23 was that that's where you do have non-residential zones.
Okay.
That's kind of where they exist. We also had to take into consideration size of parcel, which was the 40 acre plus, but then also whether or not, because these systems need to find their way back to the primary power lines, which is ITC.
We don't worry about that.
That the right-of-way perspective of it would be easier fed through US 23 than necessarily further reaches of the township where they might have to snake their way back through or traverse other properties.
Yeah, but that still doesn't answer. I mean, if we take a look at option two, those are still your non-residential areas. Well, and I don't even mean option two. I'm just saying some of them are your non-residential. So again, like, why would option one even be an option?
We feel that option one is a reasonable offering in trying to navigate both the offering of reasonable land to this use, but then also preserving the natural features of the township. We feel option two
what defines as reasonable?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, from a parcel offering perspective, I guess the definition of reasonable can get relatively subjective, but to the point that we feel that 23 is still less than 5% of the township. It does offer the parcel size, and it does it all along 23. To limit it further along 23, we just need further justification as to what it is. The abutment to residential and the zoning residential is a completely legitimate concern. 92% of the township is residential. And so it gets harder when you're looking at zoning and parcel sizes to try to start to craft what is the perfect fit for making a reasonable offer for this use. I understand the confusion about reasonable, but if we back it off further off of 23, what is our rationale for doing so? And I'm not saying there isn't, I'm just saying that there needs to be.
If we took it down to just one parcel, can we still meet the...
So it's important, you guys, hold on, it's important to note that currently, this is a permitted use, right, Mateo, based on our ordinance, without the moratorium, our ordinance, it's permitted in farming residential and rural estate and then industrial zoning districts. So this is where we're at. We're not starting from it's not permitted in our township. We're starting from we have that. So this is some of the challenges. I'm answering Kevin's question. This is when we started this whole thing, when we started the amendment process, we asked Carlisle Wortman to put some example overlay districts for us, and that's where that came from.
But we're in the moratorium now, so we have time to,
to work on amending it, for sure, yeah.
And my point is, obviously, because it's clearly not wanted, but to kind of cover our ass, if we just had it down to one parcel, would that give us enough protection to basically CYA?
Before you answer that piece, what are the state requirements?
Well, that is what's still being hashed out in the House.
Right.
Yeah, they're technically, the state's working on the offerings that have to be available.
Well, what the state's done is, what the state has basically done is it set benchmarks for the utilities to meet certain renewable generation by a certain period of time.
Right.
That generated the need. So then it travels into the reasonable use of land and not restricting and so on. So where the state is that they've set these benchmarks that the utilities are now trying to meet, and certain people see opportunity in that. The state in the House right now is also considering local preemptive powers
Right.
on solar, but what they are is still being worked on.
So why aren't we having a moratorium extend out until that sort of thing is done? I mean, no applications come in, period, until they can get their poop in the group, because that's what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And then we can lawsuit them.
So what we need to do is if we as a planning commission can't come to an agreement on something, then we can request that of the township board. But what we are charged with as a planning commission is what we're doing is we are trying to make sure our ordinance is as good as it possibly can be, because what we saw in our neighboring communities was that there were these applications coming in. So that's why the initiation of a review by the county was taken. We asked them, hey, look at this. Will this stand up if there's an application that comes? So that's where we started from. So we kind of started this process and understand what's going on in the sentiment. But I think what we have to do as a planning commission is decide on what we want to do with the ordinance, right? And that's the part of the process we're in, right? We went through the text of it and we asked our planner to come up with different overlay districts, so that's where we're at. So if we have input or decisions we want to make about maybe a different way to do an overlay or something, this is the time for it.
I'm only thinking this, to Kevin's point, it would be, let's take it down to one parcel and we send it to the board and let them look at it, but that way we've considered this, we've taken the public comments into consideration as well, and, if we get sued by the state,
So be it.
yeah, then they'll do it.
Hold on.
Because my parcel I'm looking at.
I wouldn't even go down to a
Is
parcel,
right
I'm
here.
just saying.
No, that right there, just that one. That was the old, there's no residential around it. It's right on the highway.
I don't think.
Steve, we pointed the one that again.
This one, I mean,
Yeah.
it's away from Hogan Road. It's on the north side of.
Mateo, directly northwest of the Center Road in US 23.
Yeah, it's got the industrial on it. On this side, it's got the.
It's currently future land use is Pyro. I'm sorry. That's where the asphalt plant was going.
It's the best choice. If you gotta pick one.
It's not the current zoning. It's in the current future land use map as Pyro.
It used to be, yeah, it's still Pyro right now.
It's not, the current zoning is still that far.
Right.
Can I ask one question? You're saying,
Hold on, the planning commission is supposed to be deliberating now, and we'll go to public comment after. Yeah. Thank you. So,
Steve, I agree with you, and I'm almost thinking at that point, I'm just trying to pull up what we just, in our desired future land use for this next upcoming master plan, what we have in that parcel there. But it says, it's almost like we just remove it from the overlay district and just say it's an industrial use, it should be an industrial zoning district.
I'd still like to even have it. I think we had it.
So you're saying
more restricted though.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay. So you're saying to do an overlay district on
one parcel.
That's it.
Well, how large does that parcel have to be is my next question.
That's not something you can, 5 acres, that you can answer. I mean, how?
Well, here's the thing. So when it comes to solar, they're looking for a larger amount of land. They're not going to put it on like 5 acres, right?
No,
That's all we have available.
That's all.
That's all we
No,
have
no,
available.
I get that. I get that. But what I'm trying to articulate is when you
The other path, then there's always potential, right? And we're talking about hypothetical things, but if you show that you're purposely saying, hey, yeah, you can do it, but really we didn't accommodate any reason.
You're making it so restrictive it's not feasible. They're basically.
Yeah, but
then the judge decides where they can put it.
Yeah, and I can see that happening, but if we say we feel this is an industrial use, then it should be an industrial district. If the industrial district's not big enough for them to put their solar, well, that's what we gave you.
I like that.
And
So that's Have you?
There's a need for it, and we determine that use in our township. We have a rural township. We don't want it in a rural, but we have
an industrial
we're
place
small,
for
we're
it.
shrinking in our proposed industrial area, and
If you
it can
want to
make
put
other-
it.
We've seen that for some other types of uses in the
Yeah.
tail. I don't know if you've seen that for this type of use
Not,
in any communities.
not for this type of use where it comes down, I'm not saying it doesn't exist.
It does.
It does exist.
I'm just saying, like, from the perspective of, again, the way that you're zoned and the way your parcel sizes lay out, it's not something, I mean, we have seen it, it does exist, but it's not necessarily something that we recommend based on constraining it to one lot within your entire community. That's, now, that's where we're coming from.
Yeah.
Can you do it? Yes, you can. But I'm not here to say that you cannot.
I think if we allowed it in one parcel as an overlay map, and that was future land use designation, current or future master plan, was an industrial parcel, then you could get in trouble saying, well, if it can be there, then why couldn't it be at the other ones?
Now, what happens if the rest of that industrial parcel gets taken up by some sort of industry? Right?
Well, we can't, that's fine.
Right, okay.
So, John, what you're saying is that we would propose that this
feel that
use
this
is only
parcel-
permitted in industrial zoning districts, right? That's what you're saying.
That's, I'm throwing that option out there. I think that's, if we feel it's an industrial use, and it's not farming, right?
I would agree with that.
Then, and we want to keep our farm area rural, we just proved that in the whole last year we worked on the master plan.
Yes.
Then we understand there's a need, if someone says there's a need, that's from the state, they're saying there's a need, so we're providing, here's how we can address that need. It's industrial use, and we got a small little area that we're set aside for.
So you're saying that the overlay should be the industrial area?
Or it could just not be an overlay.
Just, that's where it's allowed.
The current ordinance that's on moratorium allows it in industrial, FR, and RE. So if we say, well, we just took a step back and we reevaluated this, by looking at other solar developments, and we're rethinking of it, which we are, and now we're back to revising this ordinance, well, we don't want it in rural estate because that takes away the character of the community. Well, we don't want it in farming residential because it's not farming. And it should be around residential. So it's a commercial use, we'll just put it in industrial. And if they don't like that area, then they go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Well, the other part is-
But we're at least allowing
I'd still go to not allow it, because I mean, why even bring that option in at this point when we don't even know?
So I think.
because right now, because I think.
Are we gonna change this within 6 months?
Because they'll go back to what we had.
Yeah, they could say, you used to allow this.
That's what will happen.
Yeah, they're gonna, it's
Well,
gonna.
that's the thing, maybe, why aren't we just letting this rest until,
So
again, like,
Kevin, what
I stand by that.
you're proposing is to ask that the board would extend the moratorium until the direction by the
until we
state is
get a
given.
defined direction, it makes no sense to even continue this conversation.
You don't understand the process here.
I think you'd open yourself up for a
Here's
loss of
what you have. You have an ordinance that allows it right now. Now, the best way to not have a judge tell us what to do, because that's what happens when you get sued here. This doesn't go to court and you have a jury and everybody argues their stand. That isn't what happens. They take the ordinance and go to the judge and say, here's what the ordinance says. And they stopped it. Now, we believe that's wrong. And all the judge has to say is, boom, you can't do that. And they can allow it, then they would allow it any place in the township. So what we need to do is to control the process, but it has to be a realistic control. Now, what you can do, which probably makes the most sense, at least from the perspective of managing this, is you take this out of the picture here, you take this one out of the picture here. You limit it just to the west side.
He was doing just that.
Yeah, this,
Not these, just this.
that's pretty small.
Yes, it's good.
Yes, that's good.
But recognize that that's a golf course.
No, the golf course is
Well,
south.
The south one is-
Yeah, the golf course. Yeah, the golf course is right there. And the others actually are commercial, industrial. So that probably would be a manageable process that would be deemed reasonable. If you just take a little tiny square there and say, that's it,
The only thing with that, Kurt,
pushing
is
your luck.
that the northern parcel of the three that you're talking about, can you
Yeah.
put your cursor on that one, please, Rich? That one? That one in our future land use map that we just recommended that the board share to the public shows that as residential.
Yeah,
Where
you're
the
right.
current-
You're right, I'm sorry. So it would be just these two, not...
Yeah, but that, in addition, that the golf course property, we just, also, in the future land use map that we just recommended, you know, we're talking about the needs of residential parcels and recreation, and I couldn't see, you know, giving the golf course an opportunity to turn into a solar farm.
Well, if you've ever looked at that golf course, there's no way it could be turned into a solar farm. Recognize when you have a solar farm, how they're laid out. They're laid out east to west, and there's a reason for that, because they need a southern exposure. We have nothing, this is north-south.
So let's not put it on there.
So
Yeah, there's nothing there.
you can't, you know, for most solar farms, where they make money, go drive down 96, that's where the solar farms are, or 69. They're faced south. They orient so that you get all the sun all the time.
That's not true with all everyone's up north. They're all east to west. They pick up the eastern sun
Yeah, so-
and they follow the
so Kurt,
sun
what
to the west. They turn.
Yeah, hold on. What you're proposing, Kurt, is these three or two?
Yeah, don't make it so small that it's really, you know, 8 feet by 8 feet.
Well, no, but that parcel, I don't know what size that is, but that looks like it's, what is that? 40, 50 acres.
You're looking, yes.
More than 40, 50?
Yeah, everything along 23 is 40 acres or more.
Yeah, they're all
That's
40,
plenty then.
that's a couple hundred.
That was where the,
Oh, maybe not.
That's not,
I thought that was where the asphalt plant was.
Yeah, maybe that was combined. Look up on the video.
So we, at this point, Mateo, you need feedback on what our solar overlay will be, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That's what you're pending from the planning commission, correct? Just so we're all clear on what we, I just want to make sure we're staying on topic.
And I know we went through all this, which was we were tasked with reviewing this ordinance. We had to review all the different avenues. You know, we started out with a huge map. They were all over the place. All over. But I'm kind of leaning back towards understanding that it's industrial use and tying it and eliminating the overlay district and tying it to industrial district. How could someone say you didn't provide enough property? We see this as industrial need, and we know many examples of why we feel that way, and just put it in industrial zone.
That might be reasonable.
You know, there is one extra parcel. It's up there by the highway where the concrete plant is. There's Vale Royale. That in the new our future land use map that we've been working on. It's more than just the parcel north of the gas station there.
Can I amend what you're saying then?
Yeah,
Can I
that's just an idea.
Can I add, can I add, if water, if water isn't available around that area? Like lakes, swamps, wetlands, any of that?
I mean,
because I know the reason I say this is because like during
So part of
the asphalt,
the ordinance, there's requirements for satisfying all like those studies. You know, that's what
Yeah,
what
it was-
we wanted.
There's a lot, we changed a lot of the text.
Yeah.
And in that text,
Yeah.
in that text, there needs to be a drainage plan, and you can't increase the runoff, and we went through that all before we even got to the overlay district. That was months ago.
Right, and I'm trying to take
But
that.
we still can go back to that. I mean,
And we still have yet, so again, we're working on geography, but we still have yet to define setbacks and things of that
Yep.
nature. So I mean, there's still more regulation that goes into defining it. We're just at the crossroads of geography.
yeah.
Mateo, what do we have in the current ordinance, and I can't remember right off the top of my head, regarding them posting a bond for the cleanup and dismantling of
The current drafted language or your current ordinance?
my current ordinance, yeah.
Your current ordinance, I don't recall the specific bonding information. I know, I can look it up, but I know that the new language that we're proposing has that type of protection in place, you know, as well as, you know, trainings for emergency response and things of that nature, actions that the township can take to enter the site if it isn't being taken care of.
Does it have any type of a monetary limit or anything on it? Or does it just say a bond?
I believe there's an amount, but I will double check for you.
Okay. Because what we might want to do is establish some sort of minimum that has to be out there.
You're talking for abandonment purposes. Yeah, a current one, it's required that it is returned to its original state.
Right.
But not if they.
And I can swear there's something about a bond in there, but I'm sure it's not significant.
But is there, this is the future land use map, right?
No.
It's not?
This is just a map.
Okay, 'cause I'm trying to.
No, that's the current zoning map.
No, it's the existing land use.
Existing land
It would
use.
go on the zoning map, but it's all by parcel size, so the parcels are still the
I'm
same.
trying to figure out, do you have a future land use map you can pull up real quickly? Because let me see where the industrial is.
The current one or the one we just worked on?
The one that's gonna be the proposed.
Yeah. I got it up.
We were trying to see where industrial's.
Yeah, I want to see where we're talking about it.
And you're talking about,
But this area is complete. This is plan.
right, you're talking that plus that.
No, that.
Well,
Here, look right here.
see?
No,
Goes over.
This is it.
Oh, so just this, but.
Here's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so this one, because that's, we kind of, but this is also, if we eliminated the overlay district, we would include this
You
over
would
here.
have to include up here.
Yeah, but now, one's a concrete plant, and one's, like you said, wetland system.
Yep.
So you add that in, it takes it out, right?
Yep.
And the other one is,
Smart.
expressway areas, they're small parcels. Not, just not big and open. I don't see it being feasible.
If there's wetlands up there, why is that even industrial?
Well, because this already is. And then
Right.
This is the wedding.
And that's the wedding, that's the
Yeah.
mark. So you're saying, sorry, so you're saying, basically,
I would say yes.
cut this,
But
right, but cut it right here, go down, cut it back, and basically this section right here.
yeah, or just that one.
Just actually this one here.
Yeah, or no, it goes all the way.
Oh, it does, okay, so then just this one.
Or put an overlay just in it.
I mean,
You know, but I think,
if it's a matter of lesser of the two evils, like I can get behind this one. Just because it's like, out of curiosity, because you're right in that area. I'm trying to see what that, yeah. I'm just trying to figure out like what.
well, keep in mind, with this, they need to environmental impact analysis.
Right.
So, I mean, we're default, the state, just like we need to know.
Right.
So.
Future land use, yeah.
Second to the last page. So there's basically two areas of planned industrial. One at center in US 23 Northwest Quadrant, the other one by the concrete plant around that.
That's the same parcel.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not that north.
Retreat.
Yeah, that's where.
It's the retreat and the concrete plant in Val Royale.
You know, it's, well, the concrete plant takes up quite a bit of that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well,
most of the top purple.
And the other is empty at the moment. You got a river flowing through there. So it would be a little bit smaller than this one, this option 2 percentage, from a percentage basis.
but I think if we just kind of tie it to just the fact that it's an industrial use, and I'm kind of on board with that. I don't see it being a farm.
No, I agree with that. I like it.
And we should treat it like any other industrial use.
Because what the concrete plant is, that takes a chunk of that out, so it seems like the only feasible.
Yeah, it really
feasible
is
thing would be the north of Center Road, which is what.
Just without
There's
making.
wetlands in there too.
Yeah, but they still have to have.
They have to go through an environmental
assessment. I mean,
That's not our thing.
There's wetlands on a lot of properties, and same with any other industrial development. You know, the state's gonna regulate that.
I like putting it in, making it in permissible.
I mean, do you guys feel it's an industrial use? I mean, why would we treat this any different than other industrial uses?
I mean, to its point, it's not a farm.
It's not, our ordinance doesn't say farm, does it?
Well, that's what the state's trying to.
State's
I've
trying to
heard
show
of
it.
it.
They're
So
trying to
we
harness
could-
electricity.
So,
The terminology of solar farm is from the state.
Yeah,
so
but we call it
basically,
utility
John,
scale.
To summarize what you're saying is the permitted district for this use would be industrial district, and we would not do a solar overlay district.
I like that.
It still might be an overlay, just overlay those specific, it just might be the better way
Just
to
overlay
right,
those.
because you'll have industrial that won't be solar, and industrial that will, so it's might just. be an
Okay,
overlay.
So solar.
specific to solar.
Industrial overlay solar.
Yep. I like that.
And then we'll take our chances with court.
But, and you're saying that permitted industrial based on your future land use?
Yeah, and based on the, you know, the desires of the township throughout the master plan process. We set aside a little bit for industrial.
Yeah, so with that, then Mateo then would, for our workshop, would be able to get that, and then that way we would have it, basically the draft ordinance with this. And then I think that table would be the only amended,
Yeah,
to remove the table that has FR and RE, right?
Well, right, and then, so then define the setbacks of the overlay itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point, if that's the geography you want to move forward with, then we would generate a map for that based on the future land use designations, because it's both the purple sites that you're talking about?
Correct.
Okay, so, because I know that both of those, I believe, are a handful of parcels within the purple, not single parcels themselves. I just want to make sure that you guys know that.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
The one on the south, that's basically
That's a whole big parcel.
There's two
Yeah,
parcels.
there's two parcels.
That's the existing industrial use, which kind of wraps around to the west, and then it's the other parcel that we have.
The other one is like 5. Oh, there's 3 that need to be one. Gas station.
It's the one where the gas leak came out of.
Yeah.
No, but nice curve.
Well,
And the planning commission object to that?
Any thoughts? I mean,
I think that's. I would like to see a whole bond on it. So, yeah, we can.
Absolutely.
We can.
100%.
Yeah, we can see that for next one.
that's.
One other thing on the text of the ordinance is it does talk about screening from residential, but now it's not really in a residential area. What about screening from other
Other industrial.
well, just other areas? I mean, not necessarily the adjacent industrial, but the highway.
Yeah, and when we can,
I think we might want to look at that, having to extend that screening.
Well, that was, I think that's in the original ordinance,
Well,
was that it had to be screened from the highway, so you don't get the glare or anything else from it.
what
Well,
about
our
our
current
screening
ordinance-
from the factory next door?
Yeah, that's
Why
the
should
other
they deal
thing
with
too.
it? Yeah, and all that is part of the.
Exactly, so I think we need to revisit.
That's already in the ordinance, though. That's already in
No,
the ordinance.
but our draft ordinance for screening,
You have setbacks and.
It's pretty.
it's greenbelt screening is required around any utility scale solar facility and around any equipment associated with the system to obscure at the greatest extent possible the utility scale solar energy system for any adjacent residences.
That's in our proposed one.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we should
so
reevaluate
maybe
that to,
Property.
well, yeah, we gotta look at it. It could be from the highway, I don't know how to state it right now, but there's no residences around there.
Yeah.
You know, we do have, they gotta maintain a buffer within the offset area, and there's a pretty good buffer there, but I think we could still add more screening.
So where do we go as far as, obviously number one, next steps, but number two, you know, we had gotten advice from Livingston County as far as like, you know, no on-site battery storage and all that stuff. Are we still, we're still keeping that?
That's
the text.
Okay.
That's in the text.
Yeah, it's in, and so where we're at is, what Mateo's, they're trying to do for us is to consolidate it into one document, and this was the next thing that we needed to give feedback for, is where
Where to.
is this map gonna be?
So we have the how, we just don't have the where.
Yeah, yeah. So
And the how, there's still parts of the how.
Yeah.
There's still parts of the how there.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
There's time for review on all.
But we got lots of time to work on it.
But if you don't have a defined spot, then you can't really look at all the
Yeah,
text.
I know, we did it good. We started at the text,
Yeah.
now we went to the location, and now we're kind of mixing
So
those
Mateo, is
together.
there any other feedback you need besides this that we've just given?
No, I mean,
What to do next?
if those are the sites that you
Yeah.
want to identify for the overlay, then really for us, it's just a review of zoning maps and land use maps, just to see what the neighboring properties are and how many parcels there are there, but
Yeah.
that's just really to help start informing the setback conversation, the screening conversation, all that stuff.
So you have what you need currently from us, so we
If
can
you
go to the
vote
next
on it.
step.
If you
for
vote
sure.
on it.
Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
to.
No, yeah.
So if we're clear on this, anything that goes in on Tyrone Township is basically running into a waterway. So will that fall into the EPA if somebody came into?
Yeah, that currently, or,
Yeah,
exactly.
Eagle.
And the thing is, Bill, is like up in this area is like a ton of different wetlands too.
Oh, there's a
So, and
All
in this
that
area
goes into
too.
Runyon?
So, I mean, the likelihood is next to none.
Well, and again, it's not an east-west
Right.
layout anyway, so.
Right, it's not an east-west layout, that's correct.
No, it's not, it's the state that it goes to. We require environmental impact analysis, and then they gotta comply with the parts of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, and then Part 91, just like any other development. Soil erosion, drainage, inland lakes and streams, wetlands, shoreline protection management. So, just like any other factory or industry would want to come in, you would need to meet that.
The one thing too,
And that was all added from the recommendations from the county. So that's all new in there. We didn't have that.
And I would add that that did come from the county, but something that we added too was that those reports have to come from consultants that are mutually agreed.
Mutually agreed upon.
So it's not just the proposer who gets to bring forth their consultant.
They
You guys
can't
have to
just
agree.
slap down a traffic study and say.
Right.
now, are we correct that there is no tax benefit to us? It's so small.
This came up in another community today where there are some townships that are assessing them as improvements.
Or they're trying to, yeah.
Yes. My understanding from that conversation today is that those property owners have fought that and won, but that really comes down to discretion of the township and the tax tribunals and things like that.
So right now, you're behind the eight ball for that. Okay.
So by them purchasing that property.
So it's a net loss.
There's no,
They lease it.
for our sewers. We get nothing.
That's correct. So if we were to leave the original one up there that included the 200 acres up there by the RUs, we would be stuck with, and there would be no payment on those, we'd get nothing for them. So in essence, we would lose the value of those, and we'd still have to pay for them.
Yeah, that's a very good comment.
So,
Yeah.
so for the,
What about RUs on this property at Center and 23? Does it have RUs?
Right now, no. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think there are some for in.
Yeah, I think there's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were.
But I don't know what they are right off the top of my head. Yeah, you've got to,
Because that's in the sewer district.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All that
So, should be.
so is anyone
it
opposed to having it be in the industrial?
Yeah, actually it penalizes us because of the RUs. But you know, you got to put it someplace.
Right, you gotta put somewhere, yeah. I like that.
Is there a way to make them pay for the RUs?
Well, yeah, it's part of their application.
You know, they're not using the RUs.
I know, but they're using the land that could use the RUs.
They could be,
That's part of the problem with it.
well,
I don't know how that works, the board usually handles.
Yeah,
if there was a way, that would be.
Right. Because otherwise you're penalized by allowing it.
So they gotta pay for the
there's-
sign of the parcel. Because they're not gonna develop it as we envisioned it, so they should.
Yeah, but we don't want that. We don't want the other hand, let's put it out in the farm field where there's no RUs.
Well, no,
Right.
I'm saying they can't because it wouldn't be allowed into the zone.
I know,
But if they come into this, it's like,
I don't know if you could do anything on that. I guess that, Mateo, that would be a question is, if the RUs that are associated with that, what would happen in the situation with a solar farm?
Of trying to incorporate some sort of fee associated with it, but they're not tied in, but
Just
you're
a
providing it.
rough idea anyway.
I mean, you're probably gonna fall in the spot of, you guys used your discretion to pick the geography,
Yeah.
and they're not using a service, why should they pay for it?
Yeah.
That's probably where you find yourself with that.
Yeah. So you're taking it in the ear, so to speak.
Well, it's still probably better in a factory and actually getting the money from the RUs.
Yeah.
So we're still hearing that we want to do it in the industrial.
yes.
Do you need,
One industrial. I don't,
do you need a motion for that?
no, I don't think we need a motion. We're not,
So
we're not enacting.
We want to make sure we're all aligned, because we have sent it back to the drawing board like 4 times.
Yeah.
And it's good, we explored a lot of different areas, and, you know, we had it all across the map, and we've discussed negatives and really only negatives,
Yeah.
but.
But this seems to be the logical thing.
Yeah.
We're meeting the burden under the
Yeah.
moratorium to have a discussion.
progress.
Yeah.
Right, and it does provide an area for,
We provide it.
as an industrial use, rather than a rural farming use.
Just for the minutes, based off your future land use map, which is a draft.
It would be based on the first.
That's what I just said, and I'm not saying that there's.
Okay, so we're
I
gonna
just
put
wanna
an
make sure-
overlay on our future land use map, I like that.
Yeah, because
Because that could get not get adopted, and we'd be back to our pre-pyro areas, which goes halfway to Linden Road.
right, but.
Well, I'm saying, I guess what I should,
But
the
further
parcels,
solar overlay.
yeah, the parcels that are identified on the future land use map as planned industrial.
Yeah, because
are the ones that-
officially,
Well, are the ones that you would apply the overlay to on your current zoning map.
right.
That's just because it's a little confusing when you're using a map that is theoretical, it's
Yeah,
draft.
correct,
Yeah.
Just pick this geography.
This map has not been approved.
Correct.
So therefore,
Those parcels are there and we can identify them
Right.
for the overlay. I just want to make, for minutes,
Yeah.
everybody knows what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Thanks.
For sure?
Anything else? Anything else, John?
We weren't gonna do a vote?
No, we don't need to vote on it. As long as Mateo's clear what we're asking, then the next workshop, we can we'd be able to have it, or is that?
Let me see how many parcels are associated with it, just
Yeah.
stuff from the future land use, how many parcels are associated, and then some of the language stuff that's been brought up. Not to say that that's what we would try to hit in 8 days.
Yeah.
But let me take a look at it and I'll be in touch with Ross.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so for, I think we got through the next hurdle on the utility scale solar facilities. Anything else, guys? So, no new business. Taylor, any questions from the planning commission? Anything else?
No.
So we'll go back to call the public then. Sure. To that, so. All right, so we'll go to the second call of the public. Go ahead, please. Come forward. Go ahead.
Sorry. Chuck Wendell, I live on Foley Road. I have a question that I haven't seen answered yet, and I'm curious if this is the same as the wind farms that are up near Port Huron where I have family. I'm told that, I'm gonna say none of the electricity that's generated by those wind farms in that area is used in that area. So is it clear to understand that any of the electricity used on our land is gonna be used locally, or does it get shipped to Detroit like the wind farms?
It's a hypothetical, but it's a good question. Thank you. We don't have an answer.
I think it should be answered,
Yeah.
right? Because if we're gonna use our land, do we benefit from it? This gentleman was mentioning changing his house over to electric. You're not gonna have to. We're not getting any of the electricity. So that's my point, I guess, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Hi, my name is Scott Wilhoit. I live at 11494 Balfour Drive. I just want to state for the record that my wife and I are both opposed to any solar or wind turbine development in the township. Specifically, the parcel to the north, just south of Bennett Lake Road. I live on Balfour Drive. I see a lot of my neighbors here tonight. And as you can imagine, we don't, being a residence, we'd like to not have this in our backyard. So I just asked the Planning Commission to continue to listen to the comments. There have been a lot of great points brought up here tonight. And I hope the Planning Commission takes those all into consideration in your work that you continue to do going forth in future meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is James Glover. I live at 9390 Englishman, and I was wondering, it's kind of hard for us to hear everything back here, what's going on. Can you give us a brief summary of exactly what you're doing here? We know it looks like you're trying to make it so it's impossible for these people to move in and build these farms. And by doing so, by changing the zoning, is that what we're doing?
So for everyone's aware, the goal is to make it so that our ordinance, if someone were to come in and try to, and apply to use their land for this use, that our ordinance would protect the surrounding areas around wherever that use will go to the best of our ability, right? And that's our goal of what we're trying to do with our ordinance amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Cool, there's two in.
Jeanette, and I, Tyrone Township resident, and I also have a Facebook group, Tyrone Township Watch. And I'm gonna direct my comments to the crowd because the board member Herman got to do it. So I guess I get to do it too. He got to do it. He was allowed to do it. So I'm just going to say that this is not over, you guys. Do not show up because I've seen things change. These guys are doing a good job. They're trying to get things done, but they're also listening to, and again, no personal problem, but your company is very, they're not from here, and they're more liberal in their thinking with this. Let me just read from my speech. I really shouldn't ad lib. I do want to say that after the violation is done, whether it's, we've got the EPA and all of this, who cares? The damage is done. We can have the EPA and everybody, all the rules we want. And the videotapes that I've taken of solar farms, one that I just came across that just came into commission this year at Grass Lake, their trees are this high, spaced about this far away. They won't even be mature by the time this place is decommissioned. So all of these things need to be ironed out. We need to have heavy, heavy escrows, millions of dollars that these companies put in to escrow in order to compensate for when they ultimately move out. Because what they do is that they turn over, the LLCs turn over, and eventually all the assets are used up. They drain all the assets, and then they leave. And then it's up to the community to clean up. That's just a fact, what happens. I would also like to go back to the talk on the master plan, and I saw 2 people on the board that did not vote for that, did not approve it. Why was there no discussion? Why do we not know why those 2 people disagreed with that? There's no discussion at all. I'm going to repeat again some of what I said before. Please stop listening to the scare tactics. And usually it's me and 3 other people in this room in the audience. And we have heard over and over again, you're going to get sued, you're going to get sued. And that's coming from Carlisle Wortman.
Who cares?
How are you going to feel when there's a class action lawsuit by residents? That's what I would be really worried about. So that's something to consider. So I would ask that you stop listening to the scare tactics. And please, these ordinances talk all about the setbacks and what you need to do. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's so much that you can glean from these ordinances that have passed. Start listening to the residents. And also, I would really like to see you hold a town hall meeting, because obviously we can't have a back and forth here. It would be wonderful to get some input. So 40 acres, those 40-acre parcels, if you want to envision that, I just looked it up, that's equivalent to 30 football fields. So it's not a small little piece of land. It's a big piece of land. So again, I'm going to remind you of the asphalt plant issue. We, the people, sent those guys packing because it was going to go through if we didn't get involved as residents. This issue is different. We want to see the community working with you guys. You've received some of my research, some of you have thanked me, and I'm now in possession of so many ordinances that are good and will work. Do you guys have copies of those? Has Carlisle Wortman given them to you? Because there's good ordinances out there. I've driven pretty much every area of that map, and I hope you guys have too. And I know that you're changing the map now. But it was horrific to see what was even being considered. And I don't think anybody really drove those areas. The other thing is, why should we, Tyrone Township, be so accommodating to this solar industry and opening up land while other townships aren't? You honestly have to see these ordinances. They have tiny little pieces that they have passed. I'd also like to ask the planning chair if you would make a decision, Rich. Okay, and how this process is going to continue. And I know, Rich, that you can't make the decision alone. So it's time. I'm calling for you to stand up. I'm calling for your board members to stand up with you, and every person on this commission, and tell the powers that be that you're going to do this the residents' way. And what I'm asking for you is to not take the advice from Carlisle Wortman, to look at what is passed, what is proven, and what is good, and let some residents get involved and help you with it. And thank you for listening. And I hope that those of you that I've emailed with some important information for our township to know about will give me the courtesy of an answer. Did you hear about the resolution that I wanted you guys to look at? No, that had to do with the government's decision to try and usurp all of our solar, wind, and gravel ordinances?
The planning commission would make a resolution.
Hold on,
That's-
I know, but are you good, Jeanette? Are
I'm
you
not
done,
good.
or are you still?
I'm almost done.
Okay, Brad, thank you.
So my point is, I presented something that many townships across Livingston and all in Michigan have signed, and even counties, and I presented it and asked if it would be presented. I was told to the board and was told it had to come to the planning commission first. Did you guys never saw it? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette. Right, sir.
Still Dave Broadworth, 11791 Parkin Lane. So my understanding, if the solar complexes are allowed, they have to go on to industrial use land, right? That's what you're looking at. When they come in, do they lease the land or do they buy the land?
Lease.
They lease the land. So basically all I gotta do then as a realtor, I need to get those industrial uses sold off, so we have no way that there's gonna be any solar in here.
Any other public comment?
I have one. I think this on the form, everyone that I've seen is on agriculture, not industrial. He's saying it's industrial, it's not. Everyone I've seen is on agriculture property. I think that's why the state labeled it, and I would ask the guy from Carl Orman, why do they call it solar farms?
There's no farm.
So, no, what, yeah, sorry.
This is what you need to tell Elbridge, because it's too many questions.
Why is it solar farms?
It's not. The draft ordinance, the township's draft ordinance doesn't state solar farm.
Again, it's on farmland because that's how farmers make money, is they lease out their land. Most of them aren't farming their land, they're leasing it out to other farmers. Solar farms will pay more than the farmers will pay. That's why it's going on farms.
So, thanks. Any other public comment?
My public comment, I'm Connie Callard on Common Road. I don't think we should be afraid. I don't think we should be fooled. These are not solar farms. These are solar cemeteries.
Thank you. Other gentlemen, go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name is Doug James. I live at 12082 White Lake Road. I noticed in option 1 and option 2, the maps of the sites that were identified for electricity manufacturing facilities, that there's only one in both of those maps that borders single-family residential. And if I were a solar farm developer, I would be licking my chops over that site. It's 205 acres, it's north of White Lake Road, it's west of US 23, it's the old Bolton farm, and it abuts single-family residential. So why don't we just have a prohibition of these solar facilities abutting single-family residential? That'll take out the one they're licking their chops over. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Go ahead.
There was a discussion about the small parcel and whether it was east, west, or north, south. I don't think we should worry about what they want. You know, why give them a good one? Why not give them a north-south if that's what they don't want? But we've offered something.
We did that.
But I heard the discussion about, well, that's not east-west, it was north-south and that. I just don't think we should worry about what they would like. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chris again. I strongly encourage you to try to filter out a couple things. Number one, the fear of legal problems as a result. Number one, we were at the board meeting just last week, and it was reported in the financial report, that we have 5 years of taxes in our bank account. That's a storage, so we have plenty of money in this township to be able to handle a legal defense of anything that we need to do. If we're not going to give that money back to the taxpayers, then use that money, please, to help fight legal defense. Secondarily, our consultant is not a legal advice counsel. I wouldn't look to him as to whether we're going to be sued or not. This is not something that should be part of the planning process. The other part that should not be considered is whether Michigan's going to pass laws that are in the House or in the Senate today that may affect this. You have to plan. I'm encouraging you to plan based on what we should be doing in spite of any laws that may be passed in the future or not. We can't control the political system, but we have to plan today for what we have in place today and what we have in place from the residents and the things that we can do without fear of legal redress or without fear of future laws that may be in legislature and can't even be known to be passed or anything like that today. So I'd like to leave that with you. Just take those out of the picture. That'll give you the purest plan for the solar farms, for our master plan and other things like that. Don't look to planners who are not legal advisors. Get a lawyer that knows this stuff, and that's who we should be directing concerns about. Will we be sued? Not the planners. Love you guys, but not you. Not you, okay? So that's my thing.
I want to say, because I kind of did some research on this, because I keep hearing about this suit. And I can tell you, as of today, the ZBA has never lost a case in court over an ordinance that we have put in place. As long as we put the right ordinances in place, they're enforceable, they have been in the past, we've been sued in the past, and have never lost in court. So I'm not sure where we get this, we're worried about going to court.
Thank you. Any others? Go ahead. Ed.
Yeah, Ed Murray. On a slightly different subject, I'm glad to see that you have parks and recreation as part of your plan for Tyrone Township. And part of that, I think we have a little bit of a disaster that could happen because our septic field is north of this facility. It's all covered with trees and brush. I brought it up several times, whether I dropped off information at the township hall. And that is going to kill the septic field. And it's going to be very expensive to repair or replace. So just want to make sure that you guys know that and take that into future consideration. If you're planning on, pathways for walking, let's get that septic field cleared off. If you go on the internet, it's the worst thing you can have. Brush the trees, all the roots get into the septic field, then it's inoperable. And at this day and age, it's going to be very expensive to repair or replace. No doubt about it. And the second thing, I want to thank everybody here that showed up in support and put all these views in front of the board here. Very important. I hope you bring your friends, and I hope we keep the pressure on to let them know that we're not for this. I'm not for it. I've been here for 33 years. I don't want to look out my window. I don't want to see this stuff. It's got negative effects. So you've heard a lot of it. I hope you keep your eyes and ears open. You listen to all of the residents here in Tyrone Township, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, go to miscellaneous business. It's just, the plan is next Wednesday to have a workshop, 6 p.m., which we usually do. And I think that's all there is, and the agenda items will be the same as they are today, but I don't think for the master plan we'll have anything, so it could just be the utility scale solar if you have.
Yeah, let me look at the parcels and stuff that you guys outlined tonight.
Rich, can you explain what a workshop is? Because there's new people here, if they don't know. It starts at 6, but what happens at a workshop?
Yeah, so basically the workshop is a meeting intended for the planning commission to work on any open items maybe that we're thinking about in the future, drafts to ordinances or ideas we may have. It's Generally, we don't schedule public hearings on that meeting, and it's meant to be a shorter meeting to continue working on items.
But there's two public comment times?
Yes, there is, yep, similar to, all our meetings have public comment. Yep.
Thanks.
All right. That's all I have. Thanks, guys. Move we adjourn.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for being reasonable. Thank you. Thread the needle. No, it's good. I hope you guys are all in good direction.
Yeah, just want to say.
You want here?
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you. He said, you guys. Supposed to work.